The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of that galaxy and direct from our galaxy straight to your ears and maybe soon eyes. Hey, this is ForceCenter presents OtherCenter. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
And I'm Jennifer Landa.
And we are here to talk about a month of motivation. It's a new month, and we are going to be motivated. We're going to find motivation. We're going to share motivation. Joseph, please help me be motivated.
I will. I will light a non-literal fire under some part of your body.
Thank you. Before we get to all that, as always, I want to remind you that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. A little bit later, we will have a recommendation, an OtherCenter recommendation book we think you should try out on us. I almost got through that without a tongue fumble. But it is a Tuesday for us, not a Monday, and time has changed, and it's dark earlier. My stove phone clock won't change. I can't change it. It's broken, so I thought I was late today. It's one of those days, which is why Joseph's going to slide here, take over, and tell us about our current Ask segment.
My stove clock is slowly fading out. The light bulb is slowly dying, so the time is getting harder and harder to see, which I don't like is a metaphor, so I'm going to fight that clock. But our current ask, we're going to pivot back to YouTube. So a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I decided, let's shoot for the stars and said some ridiculous number that we want to get to. But what we would like to get to is back up to a little bit closer to where we were. We've been having a couple new people join us on YouTube, but as we're not talking about Star Wars right now during the strikes, we've been having some people leave us as well. But we're excited about the future of YouTube. We're excited about the strike coming to an end someday, and we would love to have those subscriber numbers back up. So if you have been a subscriber in the past, we'd love you to resubscribe. Or if you've been listening to the podcast anew and you're like, what's this YouTube thing? I'll check that out. Please go and find us on YouTube. We would love to get back up to about 7,500 subscribers. We're at about 7,426. I said about, but then I just looked at the screen and literally read where we're at. But we would love to get back up to 7,500. That is our ask this episode.
That's a good ask. Subscribe. Get in there. You're going to want to be there. Cool things are coming during the strike and after the strike. So join the YouTube movement over there. The YouTube movement. Like, it's this brand new tech. New thing. I remember that day. Do you all remember where you were? Where you're like, what's YouTube?
Painfully down to the detail, because it was told to me with great encouragement to get started on it, and I was like, I've
told the story before, mocking some friends for doing movie reviews on it. Like, what are you doing? That's where I go to watch the Lazy Sunday clip from SNL or Cats. Like, no one's gonna watch that. The Beatles are a guitar band. They're going out of style. What do you do? Well, before we get into the main topic, we do like to catch up. It's life adventures. It's needed. It's needed to kind of put some perspective on the week. So Jen, normally we start with you, but I'm going to put down my cards. I'm going to play my hand right here, right now. I had a very bad week, but I also had a very good week. And that's kind of life, right? And it's all, I went to a wedding Wednesday, and that's the story. That's the yin and yang of my life the last week. I didn't want to go to this wedding in the sense of, I love these folks. Man, this is going to be kind of an inconvenient Halloween wedding in West Hollywood where the city shuts down. And all of us were kind of like, oh, then we got there. Number one, no traffic. Two, I got there quicker. I got to West Hollywood from Burbank quicker than I do any other normal time. I got there like 20 minutes. And it was a damn sweet, emotional, cute, and fun wedding. And it was one of those lessons of, hey, Ken, maybe you just shut up and maybe you get out of your own head and out of your own way and show up for other people and have fun, because we all had fun. I danced like I haven't danced in years. I also have not been able to walk properly until yesterday. I absolutely bleeped up my back to a almost frightening level where I can't sit, I can't sleep, I can't stand, I can't work, I can't do anything. It's been a painful week, and that's kind of my week. Immense joy and a lot of pain. So I'm going to have to find the lessons in that.
So what are you doing with your body right now? as we record. Are you sitting, standing, crouching?
I have the high broadcast chairs, but it's at bar level, right? Really, it's bar setup. I do that so I can stand during shows. Back in the radio days, I stood most of the time on air, so I'm used to that. But I talked to my friend Brian Teller, who has back pain. He's a tall lad, 6'5" or so, and he goes, I just live with it every day. It's a 6 or 7 every day, and that's where my back pain is. So you sit until you can't anymore, until it starts burning, and you put the pads. I feel like a grandfather. Give me my sitting pillow. And I try not to overdose with pain meds. I don't want to go down that road. But 3 ibuprofens for breakfast is not a abnormal thing around here. And so I'm just sitting, and I squirm, and I try to find the joy in it.
Squirming toward joy. Motivational speech.
My God.
And it's here. And for anyone tweets in, everything. I this past year I did go to the doctor, did go to a back specialist. And they said what I had, it's like an old fracture, is so low, and the surgery would be so invasive, and the back specialist was like, I wouldn't do it. So and this is it. This is where we're at.
Yeah, no, and just managing it seems like a wise plan.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm going to dance the night away, even if I pay for it. Jen, did you dance and cry at the same time this week?
No, not this week, but I have in the past. This past week, I realized that we recorded before Halloween. So Halloween did happen, and I had a funny incident, and I should share it on my TikTok. I was going to share it on Instagram, and I'm like, nah. But I'm passing out candy to kids, which was unusual. We don't always get a lot of trick-or-treaters, but we kind of got a flood of them, which was very exciting for me. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I was buzzing with energy. I was in the middle of trying to get my Furby costume on. So there was a lot happening, and I was in mom mode. So my brain was all over the place. So this kid comes up to the door, and I totally recognized his costume right away. And I was like, I said, Zelda. And he looked at me. This kid was 10, and he looked at me. Like the eyes went to the back of his head. He turned and walked away. And as he was walking away, he stuck up his index finger in the air and said, I'm Link.
Oh, no.
You guys? And I shared this on TikTok. I was like, listen here, kid. This is what I wanted to say. I was playing the original gold cartridge, Legend of Zelda. I know who Link is. I actually took a picture of the screen when I beat the game because I had spent so much time. I have that picture still.
Well, this is amazing. We've never talked about this.
Oh, I was so like. And there was nothing I could do. The kid had walked away. There was no chance for me to redeem myself. I felt ashamed. And I was like, this is what it feels like to feel like an old person, where this young person thinks that they're schooling me. And I think what happened was I didn't articulate, you're from the character, you're from the Zelda game. I just was like, my brain was just like free association, Zelda.
Yeah.
I'm like, we played Breath of the Wild as Link. Like, I know who you are. Like, It was just, I had to accept it. I had to accept that I was just this mom who didn't know who Link was. Just hurt my soul. Hurt my soul.
I want this to be an actual, filmed comedy sketch where you actually run forward and just start tearing into the kid and saying, like, do you know the difference between Ganon and Ganondorf? Huh? Do you? Do you?
Yeah.
Oh my
you
God.
Little bleep.
Oh, it was just like the amount of attitude. Like, he was just so, he was like exasperation. Like, yet again, I have to explain my costume to this adult that doesn't know anything. You know what I mean? I just was like, oh, guy.
Listen here, you little bleep. Let me tell you something. Oh man. Yeah. And look, I think the three of us are relatively plugged into what's going on. Do I know every cool new artist that comes up? Do I know every trend? No, I don't. But we're not like my folks who rent DVDs from the library. We're not.
Right. Exactly.
By the way, fine, because I love libraries, but I don't want to disparage libraries. I want to make sure I'm clear about that. But it's just my mom's like, what's a Netflix? So, yeah.
Right. How do I enter my password? Like, no,
Mhm.
I'm dialed in, kid.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would understand the kid's reaction if you were like, "Oh, you're Mario," like, deeply wrong. But, like, the
Right.
fact that the little bleeper couldn't give you the benefit of the doubt that you said the name of the bleeping video game, the franchise.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I'm mad
That's-
at this child for you.
Well.
I've always felt the branding of that game is off. Then call it Link. Then just from day one, it should have been the Tales of Link. All right, if that's, I know Zelda, I get it. I played it,
Right.
but that's a them problem, kid, not a me problem.
Yeah, that was really funny. That's what happens when you're tired and passing out candy. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, I love that gold cartridge. Many happy memories of that gold cartridge.
Right.
Right? Oh,
Right.
so many
I
hours.
want to hear Joseph tell you, but Jen, you just reminded me. For this wedding, we had to leave the dogs home, and I was terrified. We were terrified because they were going to be, the doorbell was going to be ringing every 5 minutes for candy, right? So I got 2 buckets full of candy. I went to the store.
Oh yeah, that's
And to sound, old, it's expensive. Not a kid came.
no.
You have the ring on, so you can say no one. So I have been eating 2 buckets worth of candy for the last week too.
That's really good for your back, I think.
Really great. The sugar, it's not that great. So, if anyone wants blow pops or Twix, mini-sized Twix, let me know. I'll mail them out.
All right.
Or Joseph, if you want some, I can drop some off. Let me know.
Okay. I like that you're like, I'm not leaving my house. I just mail things now. I don't leave. Set up a pneumatic tube to send Twix back and forth.
Joseph, you had a busy weekend, I know.
I did. It was actually hard to try to narrow in on life adventures because Halloween was great. And then the next night I went to Guns N' Roses at the Hollywood Bowl. And then I flew to Mobile, Alabama, a city I've never been to for the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival. So it was like sometimes our, adventures of the week was like, I don't know, I did some writing and tried to stay positive. But this week, lots of stuff. Halloween was great. We ended up driving to Burbank because a designer of like an event designer who sometimes works at the same place as my wife works had set up this amazing, beautiful, elaborate tribute to classic horror monsters. So that was great. But the thing that was the theme that I pulled out of my life adventures is alone versus community, because my wife couldn't join me for a bunch of stuff because she is getting ready for a dance show. So she couldn't come with me to the Guns N' Roses concert, and she couldn't come with me to Mobile. So there were both things that like I didn't really have like a one partner who was with me, wife or friend for either of those big fun events. So parts of it were like, this is weird, and I got to be, brave and all that, and just walk in and figure out I'll find some people to talk to. In both of those situations, I was really happy with the amount of just community of other people in the fun, weird interactions that you have when you aren't sort of isolated into like, I've got my 3 or 4 people around me and we're a unit and that's it.
A pack.
Yeah, the Guns N' Roses concert was amazing because they're all Hollywood rats. The famous you know where you are, you're in the jungle, baby, you're gonna die, is what an old man actually said to Axl when he got off on the bus on Hollywood Boulevard. So to go from that to playing the Hollywood Bowl for the first time, there was like a real special energy for them. So that was really great. But I've been to a couple other concerts and they've, it's a mixed bag when people go to a rock concert and drinks and other substances are flowing. But anyway, I ended up I was on the edge of one of those Hollywood benches and people kept coming and going and fighting over the seats and all that. But I had a couple of different seat partners, this middle-aged couple who were extremely happy to be there, had never seen Guns N' Roses live, and then proceeded to either yell questions at me about my favorite songs or make out for the entire thing. There's a while there I was just standing next to 2 people just literally dry humping to Rock the Queen. Like, cool.
Oh
I feel a part of the community. And then they played a song that they don't always playing concert, Civil War, which is one of my favorites. So I standing up dancing, and the woman next to me suddenly got really excited and was really dancing. It's like, it was fun to be sort of like, we weren't looking at each other, but we were both dancing outwardly, but we're dancing together. And then I look over and notice that her fella has been filming her the entire time in this, in a real influencer vibe, a real, like, my fella is filming for me. And I was just suddenly like, I think I might be in an influencer video dancing. And then when she left, she was like, thanks for dancing with me. And the guy gave me like a thumbs up of like,
oh no.
Like,
no.
I think I'm in their video. I'm going to have to try to find it. Yeah. So that was a fun adventure. And then just real short with Mobile, the screening of Nightmare Adorable went really well. People had fun questions in Q&A. It's the first time the festival is doing, was in Mobile, Alabama. So the festival was a little lightly attended, but everybody who was there, enthusiastic, had a great time, all that. I have been to Atlanta for Dragon Con. I was in deep South Texas to visit my grandmother once, but I've never been to Mobile, Alabama. And just all of the people, the city was really cool. Very, very old downtown with the small one-way streets. And there, Mobile's, one of Mobile's claims to fame is the first city to do any sort of Mardi Gras event. New Orleans obviously came along, but Mobile did it first. And there's that sort of spirit of fun and like beads hanging from trees and statues of their first sort of Mardi Gras king and queen in public parks, and just a really great vibe. But the Southern hospitality, the friendliness and the honesty thing was incredibly real and incredibly nice. Yeah. And particularly in a time or place where I could have felt a little alone, like that I got to the hotel after traveling for like 10 hours and, 22-year-old woman greets me by like, how you doing, baby? And coming from the Midwest, like that, calling somebody you don't know baby is fighting words. That emotionally, a little bit more withdrawn. But just that, I've never been called baby, love, or boss more in a weekend.
What's up, boss? Yeah, that's great.
And it was all just friendly. Like I went to a bar by myself because just wanted a beer in the afternoon, and the guy's like, "How you doing, boss?"
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
All just so friendly. Even the TSA agents were friendly in Mobile, Alabama. So that was just a really nice experience to have.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you highlighted that. I know there's so much in the world, and it's easy to fracture off. And there's a lot of history to be dealt with all around our country. I get it. But every time I was in Tennessee or that part of the country, there's a hospitality that does shine through, and I always enjoyed it. So that's a good point.
Yeah. No, you one can easily get loaded up with many different stereotypes, and it was an incredibly welcoming city, and I really needed that. So thank you, Mobile, Alabama.
Wonderful. That's great. We're here and we're going to get motivated. It's a month of motivation, Joseph. So take us through this, because I'm going to be honest, I'm excited to talk about motivation because I think I need it. I am lacking.
Yeah, no, it's very hard, which is, I think, why people have to sort of like band together and create events. And the reason this topic jumped to mind is that it's a NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, which I think is it's very specific. Let's write a novel, but it is just entirely an idea of like, let's take a really hard thing that takes a lot of time, a lot of motivation, and let's turn it into a community thing so people know they're not alone. How you doing, baby? That's what National Novel Writing Month is saying. So we're going to discuss a little bit how we stay motivated creatively, or if we want to talk about non-creative things in terms of motivation, that's fine too. We often gravitate toward creative because that's what we do. So we're not necessarily going to talk about novels, but any creative or life tasks in general, all the challenges, tips, etc. But I do want to start with the acknowledgement of National Novel Writing Month. In asking both of you, because I don't know, start with you, Jennifer. Have you ever participated in National Novel Writing Month, or have you ever wanted to?
I didn't even know this was a thing. Right before you shared about this topic, I had come across a friend who is a writer, and they had posted that they were participating in it. And I saw that thing, the acronym for it. I was like, what is that? Oh, that's interesting. I have no desire to participate. I am not a writer like that. I will leave it to the writers, but I think it's a really great way to get motivated and also hold yourself accountable, right? As we're going to talk about. So yeah, I did not know such a thing existed, but it's great for budding novelists.
Yeah. And I'm not a super expert on it, but for anybody who is not familiar with National Novel Writing Month, I believe there's a website you can sign up to, or you can do it more informally. But it's just there's targeted word counts per day, and you can report to yourself and others if you're keeping up with it. And it's really just an encouragement of like, in theory, word count wise, you can write a novel in a month if you write this many words per day, and share that accountability with other friends and all that kind of thing. I think it's spiraled out to like, being other things as well. As I think, Jennifer, if you wanted to write a nonfiction book about the history of Furbies, that would still fall under the ethos of National Novel Writing Month. Ken, have you ever participated or felt the pull?
I was aware of NaNoWriMo. You said it so poetically. NaNoWriMo. It sounds like some kind of Furby language. I have not, but I'm aware of it. I think it's a great idea. In terms of, I have one book somewhere on shelves, but I wanted to write fiction in my 20s, and I did. I have a very bad rough draft of a first draft of a novel. And never shall it see the light of day. But so I don't know if I've been tempted to do this, but I really like the idea behind it, which we'll get into. Just because it is something that is acknowledging human nature and trying to help in spite of that. Like you can do it, and maybe accountability or structure or forcing yourself to do even just a little inch forward is its own kind of motivation, perpetual motion, right? So I'm excited to dive into the ideas behind it.
Yeah, and I think also the idea that you don't need special permission. From you don't have to have gone to school or need special permission. Like, do you want to tell a story? You can. Yeah, it's accessible to everybody, which I think is beautiful as well. I feel like I have participated in various versions of National Novel Writing Month of like non-national, you booked a show and you have to write it a month, right? So I feel like I've informally done it a lot, but I did actually do it in 2021. I didn't sign up to any like a group or any website or that, but I just like I had a novel idea, I wanted to write it, and it's challenging to set aside the time every day, and it helps to have everybody's doing it, and there's accountability, all that. So in 2021. I finished 3/4 of a novel, and everybody's always really gentle about like the goal is to write a lot. If you don't finish your novel, fine. I finished like 3/4 of a novel, many, tens of thousands of words, and I made time for it almost every day. I think I skipped actual Thanksgiving, which was, was a really great experience. Some of that novel is very rough. I'm sure I used the word luminous 8,000 times in one book, so I'll need to change that.
It's a great word.
And then, so then at the end of last year, 2022, I had it as a goal to just finish the novel. So I did manage to finish it. So I have a complete first draft, but it's been really hard to make time to finish it. So I have participated. I want to participate every November, but it can be hard to find the time, which is part of the reason we're having this discussion.
Could there be a follow-up month of National Edit Your Novel Month? Is that part of it?
Nano Redo Month, Redo Mo, which is what I need, and maybe I'm sure there is somewhere, but it's a different beast to rewrite something. I kind of thought like, once I get the first draft done, I'll be able to revise it pretty quick. And like, oh no, that's a lot of words. That's like 80,000 words. And like at least 40,000 of them need to be moved around. That's a lot of work.
This I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. That's the thing, but editing the written word versus anything else you edit that's so many words. You move one sentence, the whole Jenga tower crumbles, and you get intimidating.
Yeah, no, and it worked really well, but there are those prices of the speed writing of like, I cannot remember what color eyes my main character has, and I've changed it 7 times. And it's hard to search for and that kind of thing. But so okay, we wanted to get a baseline for National Novel Writing Month, but now, like we do, we're going to go back to the beginning and talk about what appears to be our favorite topic here on OtherCenter, our parents. I think we were talking off air. It's a natural. We're doing a lot of topics where we talk about life experiences, introspective stuff. So where we start and our parents are a natural thing to come up. But going back to the beginning for you, Ken, did your parents encourage just the idea of goals? It doesn't even have to be creative, but like set a goal and hit it. Did they encourage that? Did they give you any tools for that? What was your experience?
This sounds super negative, but not really, not to my memory. They encouraged things, creativity, and allowed me to be at times weird little kid, or other times, I want to play baseball, like and that's, by the way, not that you can't be weird and play baseball. So I want to make sure to speak positively about that. I think they definitely tried, but I feel I emerged from this all with not being pushed by them, but in the end, not pushed by myself enough, which is still something that lingers today. Like a National Novel Writing Month is great. Could I have National Manage Your Own YouTube Channel and hit the standards you set month? Like,
Yes.
Could we do that? Because it is sometimes that simple. Yes, life takes you every day could be an adventure, but like, I always find if I just sat down for 30 minutes, I could get that thing. And there's wonderful jokes you can tweet about. That thing you put off for 6 years took 5 minutes. Yeah, that the reason that joke resonates is it's real. But I think some of that could have been changed if I had a little bit more of that. What do you want to do? And here's how we can help you get there. And here's how you could maybe get there.
Do you think do you know if your parents had goals? That sounds really negative. Did your parents want anything? No, but was it were they more of the mindset of like you set up life and you just keep it rolling, so goals was not an idea for them?
Survival, I think. It's not something I've spoken with my father on. He's super talented in many ways, but did the kind of it's too hard to make it. And then I got the wife and the 2 kids here in the late 70s. I stopped that now. I have my job and that's what I do. And I think that never translated directly. I was never told that. And I've tried to take the positive out of the negative of, I'm not going to do that. Not sort of wife or kids. It's not in my cards right now, but like, even when I thought that would be, I was still going to try to be creative. So I took that lesson out, but survival is a good thing, but there's a little bit of my to go into the OtherCenter. Joseph and I had these conversations in a bar in Anaheim in 2022. My mom was less concerned about my goals and what I wanted to do. She just didn't want to she didn't want me hurt. So everything was done from just don't get hurt physically, emotionally, on any level. So taking a risk.
Satan behind National Novel Writing Month? Is that possible?
Yeah. And that's been that's been part of our conversations, what I call negative attachment, where you don't want me to die. I don't want to die, but you're more worried about what you will do upon my death than my death. And that's I promise this gets lighter, and so I don't have a lot of it will, but I think I was thinking about it really hard this morning over a cup of coffee. There was never you want to be a baseball player? Here's the 17 things you need to do to be a baseball player. You want to do comedy? They drove me to play practice or helped me went and saw my drama performances in junior high, but there was never what could you do? A 9th grade English teacher pulled my mom aside and said, "Your son's a good writer. He needs to start now on how, if he wants to make a living off this, he needs to do some things." And she told me about it, but then there was no follow-up on that. And I was allowed to drift off into depression, which is not my thing, but I drifted off into depression. So by high school, when it ended, I was far removed from that path.
Yeah. How about you, Jennifer? What was your experience with your parents and the idea of goals?
I don't think my mom ever spoke about it like that. She was a teacher, and then later on became a principal. So for her, everything was very linear. Like the deadlines were very, very clear, right? Like you go to school, you have papers due. Okay, then you go to college. Okay, then if you want to become a professional of some sort, you either go to graduate school or you get a certificate or whatever you need to do, right? It's all very and then you get a job afterwards. And that was what she was very, very big on. In terms of like having creative goals, that was just never something that she ever really thought of or talked about because she came from extreme poverty. It just seemed too lofty to her. And so the only thing would be like my piano, which she would tell me, you know, so-and-so, the reason why they play so well is because they practice for 2 hours every day. And so she's like, if you're feeling like you're not where you want to be, then you need to practice for at least an hour every day. So every day, this was like I was 5, you know, and she's like chasing me under the piano, like, okay, you have to practice for an hour today. So that was really drilled into me. And I hated it. and then later on, and what I've been dealing with now is realizing like you kind of have to be a good business person and a hustler if you want to monetize your art and be able to like set those goals, hold yourself accountable, and you know, you have to figure out how to do that. And I just don't think that that's really in my nature, as I've discovered. And I've had to really figure out how can I set my goals? How can I create a strategy? And how can I meet those goals? So yeah, being a creative is a whole other thing. Because when you're going through like elementary and grade school, whatever, like the goals are set for you, right? You get a grade. If you don't finish the homework on time, you're going to get a C or an F. Like it's very clear. And then you're thrust out into the world. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're both saying some great things that I experienced as well. And I think a lot about this is a little external versus internal, which I'm excited to get into. My parents definitely encouraged work ethic. But like you're saying so well, Jennifer, those are all sort of external pressures of get a good grade. So you're smart,
right.
So you don't get in trouble. So you can go to college. So you can get a job. So you can not starve to death. You know, really a lot of work ethic to to just keep up with the basic necessities of being alive and a part of society. And I think I got a lot of work ethic. I think that is a part of the mixed culture of Minnesota with a lot of Scandinavian people and a lot of people from who really value. I think that's where some of these sort of the Minnesota pride in being able to survive extreme winters and extreme summers is that just sort of like you put your head down and you do it. So I think there was some of that just in the cultural air. But as I've mentioned, you know, in recent episodes, my dad worked his butt off just because whatever you need to do to make money and survive. My mom was an obsessive student herself who really wanted good grades and got real competitive about it. And had gone back to college when I was in 2nd grade and graduated when I was in 11th grade. So I witnessed her doing homework a lot, and she was obsessive about homework. So I witnessed a lot of work ethic, but that's what both of you are talking about, which is different than goal, different than I decide I want something. Now, how can I stay motivated to get the thing I want rather than the thing that is absolutely expected of me by my parents and society? And I think the first time that my dad or anybody really helped me with a goal in particular was, you know, I wanted to learn to play the drums because I met other kids in high school who were learning to play guitar and bass, and we were like, we should form a band. And like, can any of us really play our instruments yet? No. So my dad had been kind of lightly teaching me some of the basics, but then in I think a lesson that has paid off in life, in 10th grade there was like a homecoming I don't even know what the noun for it is these days. The presentation that, it wasn't at the football game. That was everybody come to the gym, and the teachers said some things about how great the school was and introduced some alumni that none of the kids care about. I think maybe the high school band played or whatever. But they wanted to have, students do things. So I managed to book a gig for our band to play Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 with, We Don't Need No Education. And at first the principal was like, the lyrics of this song is "We don't need no education." I was like, yeah, but I think if you listen to the narrative of the song, it's about learning that we actually do. I think I had to write like an essay about why that song was okay. But we booked the gig. And I went to my dad and was like, is this just the basic drum beat that you taught me? Because that's the only one I know. And he's like, well, kind of. I was like, there's this noise. Like, yeah, that's the hi-hat that he's opening at a specific part of the beat. So my dad like really worked with me to learn that drum beat for that show.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I can remember, like, this isn't just get good grades, get a job, don't die. This was in a specific thing I wanted to do with an end date that I needed to work toward. And that was a good experience. But there could have been more of those.
No, but a good one and a great tune.
I think so. I think so. So we're kind of getting into this, but I want to get both of your takes. Jennifer, do you feel like there is a difference between a general work ethic versus completing a specific creative or other task that you, the individual, really want to do for yourself?
I think so. I think that you have to be strategic before you start your work, because you could end up working harder than you need to, because you might be trying to figure out your plan. So having your goal in mind and then figuring out, how am I going to achieve this goal? What do I need to do? Right. And I think at the end of the day, working hard is going to always trump talent, is what I've learned. I was taught that talent is the most important thing. If you have a God-given talent, well, then you just kind of need to work at it a little bit, right? But I think it's absolutely the opposite. It's why supposedly like the C students in high school actually often do better in college, because they're used to working really hard. Things don't always come easier to them. So, yeah.
That's fascinating.
If that explained anything, but
Jennifer, what kind of grades did you get? Were you what kind of grades did you get? I don't want to lead the witness with assumptions.
Yeah. In high school, I got average grades, like B's. I got A's in writing, which was really the only way I was able to get into UC Irvine. And then, but in UC Irvine, I was on the dean's list and I got really good grades because, number one, I was studying things that I was passionate about. And number two, I was used to working hard,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's very interesting. It's a great perspective. Ken, how about you?
Yeah, a big difference to me, and I generally think I have a general good work ethic. Often when I'm doing it for other people is when it emerges, which I've mentioned before, and we can dive into. But yeah, it's a good base. It's a good base for everything. And I remember even back in my coaching days, I had some kids who, to your point, Jen, couldn't hit the baseball as good as others naturally, but were wanted to, right? And would tell me, hey, can I come early? Coach Ken, can I sit down early? And one kid, Carter, did. Oh man. And had a big game that day, because he showed up, worked with me one-on-one and said, not just, I have a specific goal, but I want to put in the work to get to that. So I think that's just a base for anything in life, that can fuel the specific goals. The struggle of, I really hear what you're saying, Jen. I think I even touched on this kind of stuff before here of, I wasn't set up for failure, but it was just like, you kind of don't have to worry about Ken. Little Kenny will sit on his couch and read his own G.I. Joe Choose Your Own Adventure books, and he'll get all his homework done, and he'll get A's all through school. And then we don't need to check on him. And that's not even just my folks. That's other just adults or teachers or anything. He's one of our favorites. And then I always got good grades. Your Honor, I got good grades. And then senior year, me and my friend Joel, who I'm still friends with, he's a screenwriting teacher down here in LA actually now. We were in a math class together, and we both nearly failed the math class. And we had become friends, real close friends that year. And it was a cool math teacher named Jack Harris. He's a big band, like just had a bunch of band posters. Big fan of the band Perry Ubu, which he was cool. He wasn't like a hip, cool young teacher. He actually looked like a math teacher, but he was cool. And we had so much fun in his class, but we nearly failed it. We had a struggle, and we went to talk to him on our final day, graduation week, whatever. We said, hey, we want to talk to you and say goodbye to you. And he said, great. He said, sit down. And he was always one of our favorite teachers, very lighthearted, very funny. And he's like, you jackasses are going to get hit hard with life. And we're like, what? And he's like, he basically gave the speech of, you come to this class, you nearly failed out of it. This is the first time you did that in your high school careers, I know. And you sat in the corner just joking and thinking it all comes easy to you. And you're going to find out there that ain't the case. And Joel and I talk about that often. Remember the day we went to get a hug from Mr. Harris, and he like yelled at us
and gave you the van down by a river speech.
Yes. And in some ways, I really am thankful for it, and sometimes need to be reminded of it. I can't just have the feeling of, I'll show up and we'll get through it. And I know no one will care. And and it's like, I got to remind myself of that and the work ethic that needs to be out there. Again, I'll work late hours, 31 straight hours of working my last Black Friday at the mall. I'm there for that kind of stuff. But when it comes to do the things that will move you forward, I struggle.
Yeah. I think that's, I think it's totally understandable. I think a lot of people are in the same place where maybe we can beat ourselves up because we don't feel like we're motivated. But then you look at your life and like you're working constantly. And that's one of the things that's hard to, when you do all the things you need to do to make money, to be a good friend, to be a good partner, if you got kids, to be there for your kids, to be there for your pets, to be there for your parents, all of which I think does take a sort of literal work ethic and emotional work ethic. And then it's in some ways this different thing to say, can I carve out time and emotion for what I want? And I think that's such a big difference between general work ethic versus completing a specific task of the goal thing. And to me is just entirely about asking, what do I really, really want? And what within my power can I do to get it? And can I first identify what it is? And then can I set a goal to actually reach it? And I think some of those struggles are definitely evergreen, but I do think that's the kind of thing that is, affecting our mental health with social media of, as we talked about before, kind of seeing all of these different things that other people do, or sometimes just seeing something kind of shiny and just like, it's not a creative goal to go, well, that other person got more likes for that kind of photo. How do you turn that sort of flash of, but I want to be seen and I want to be appreciated into what do I truly, truly want for myself, and what are the steps I can do to possibly get it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And maybe Jen, you would be much more knowledgeable than Ken and I because of your children on this. Maybe that's being taught more. But I think when we were growing up, there was such a focus on like, life is hard. If you have a decent job and people in your life, then find a hobby. But what is this, this, I don't know. I think growing up, it might have been considered sort of like indulgent or maybe even sort of vain to be like, what do you mean? What do you need? Like, do you have a family and a place to live?
Yeah.
You're done.
Right.
And I think that to me is a big part of it too, of in the power of National Novel Writing Month is a large group of people saying your soul is important too. Do you want this? Do you have something to say? Here's a whole community supporting you, not just in like the actual tangible goal of writing a novel, but basically saying like your soul is worth spending time and energy on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yourself, an investment. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, of course, challenging. So let's talk about that. Jennifer, for you, what's the biggest challenge for completing like a creative goal of like, you've done all the, like, I know I want to make this, I know the steps I need to do it. It's all mapped out on paper. What then is the biggest challenge actually making it happen for you?
Staying on task. I'll get inspired, like, especially when you're working on something for a while, you might start to get like kind of bored with it, or just feel like frustrated. And so then you see something else and you're like, oh, actually I'm inspired to do this. And then you get kind of, you get a little conflicted. So time management is key. Working when you don't feel creative. This is the most difficult, I think, for creative people, whether it's writing, acting, visual arts, painting, really anything. And then the last thing would be deciding when it's good enough. So that's why they say to have that deadline and just be like, it is done. It may not be perfect. There may be more I want to fix, like George Lucas, but this is it. This is good enough. And being okay with that. That's the hardest thing, I think, for any creative person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, the letting go is a huge part of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Ken, for you, what is the biggest challenge on completing a specific creative task?
It's the confidence level, the belief that this is something that should be shared with the world. Is the biggest thing I have. This is all time, where I make jokes. I occasionally have ranted on this on stage, where it's like the 25 years now in Hollywood, in and around the entertainment field, and I can confirm that way too many people in this town believe in themselves. And we've all been there. And I was having some of these discussions this week with a friend of mine, Joey. We met for coffee. We were both kind of talking about our futures, and he's just like, you see someone do something and they put it out there and they post it, short film, comedy set, whatever it is. And it's not like a close friend. It's like an acquaintance. And in your heart, you know that you're better than them. But you're upset at yourself because they did it. You didn't. And you keep telling yourself, I'm not worthy, or this shouldn't be shared. And that's been a big thing for me. So there's other challenges, the time, all those kind of things, investing. I sometimes do a shotgun approach where I've just interests everywhere. Right. And some people joke, Ken, you're kind of a modern Renaissance man. Well, that's not a thing for success. Let me tell you, you know, when that was a successful idea in the Renaissance, not, you need to hyper focus on some things. And so but all of that flows down into this, what I call these obstacles, these personal obstacles I put in front of my path to stop things from being completed. Deadlines are big for me. It can put pressure on you, but saying this is going to be done by December 15th is something I need. Otherwise it won't get done. Cause I there's a project I was trying to start right now with a friend of mine, and he's been busy and I haven't pressured him to, hey, he works a full-time gig and it's a little audio comedy piece we're trying to put together. And because I have no deadline, I haven't touched it in a month. Now we're probably not gonna be able to do it. So if I don't say, the philosophy, like a lot of folks, we talked about, SNL fan, that Lorne Michaels idea of the show goes on 11:30, whether it's ready or not, is how I function. And hopefully you have the good work ethic to be ready, because that could certainly be a recipe for disaster too. But that's my biggest challenge, is going, all right, I have something that is worth sharing, believing that, and then saying it will be done. Because if I can just push it to tomorrow, it won't get done.
Yeah, no, it is. It's so hard to just have that like floating deadline. You really have to have I fall into that every time of like, maybe around mid-year. Great. Nope. Yeah, what day? Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest challenges for me are fear and time. I think no matter how long you've been doing creative things, I think sometimes we think of fear as something really big, but I think it's the like, every day when you start again, and that little bit of that resistance, maybe sometimes you're exhausted, or your creative well is dry, there are other things, but I think almost always it is fear of, I'm not going to hit the goal I set for today, or I'm not prepared for this scene, or the fear of like, I think I know the character's motivation, but I'm kind of wrong. Like all these little fears, whisper at you and make it harder for you to get past the fear to the fun of once you really start flowing on, say, writing. It's like the climbing. Fear is, to me, like it's like the beginning of the roller coaster where you have to get yourself to the top. And I think that is one of the hardest things, even after years of doing this, because the fears aren't. I mean, some of them are real, like you want to do a good job and all that, but they're so deep and kind of such small little demons that all get together that no matter how long you do them, you do creative stuff. You have to get those little demons to shut up so you can get your cart to the top of the first hill of the roller coaster and then get going and zip through the ups and downs. And I think, it's all these things that people tell one another that are easy to say and hard to do, I think enjoyment defeats anxiety. So if you can get yourself to a point of, I'm in the part of this that's fun and it feels, I don't know what's going to happen next, then that's fun instead of scary. If you can get yourself to that point, it's, so great, which I think is part of the reason. That's another reason I think for National Novel Writing Month of, if you're doing this every day and your focus is on word count, it's a way to push you past all those little demons.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's the 1 page a day. I think that's actually really effective if you sit down and do it. It isn't, but yeah.
Yeah. And then, time is just, time's a beast. Carving out the time in your day-to-day life, needing to get in the right headspace, get into a flow. Those things are harder for me. We'll talk a little bit more about process in the second half. But boy, if I can just go to a hotel room and be alone, that's way better than taking 10 minutes every day. I get real grumpy about that because that's better. And then I think for me, picking what I want to do, I have a first draft of a novel and I haven't been able to make the time because have had the gift and curse of wanting to do lots of different things. And as Ken pointed out, it's not the Renaissance anymore. I don't have, one rich patron, and, Leonardo da Vinci did not have streaming access to anything ever made. So different times, and it's hard to make those choices and pick the time.
Yeah. It's a thing. And we'll talk about process like you said, but like as always, when these things spring up, giving yourself a little bit of grace to say, all right, today wasn't a win, or tomorrow I'll do better. I think that's valuable too.
Yep. Oh yeah. Grace is a great friend. And your partner, obviously. But we'll talk more about that in the other half of the episode.
We will. Before we do that, we're gonna do ForceCenter and OtherCenter recommend to today. Joseph, the question mark is going to be filled by you. What do we have?
Yeah, so this is a book that was kindly gifted to me a couple years back, and I put it on my to read next pile, and then other books got on top of it, and I'm very glad that I finally picked it up. It is a book by the director Ken Napzok, who people will know from many different things. The movie He Said, She Said. He directed the pilot in many episodes of The Office. He directed basically the first season of the Larry Sanders Show, all sorts of great stuff. So this book is fascinating because it's a mix of autobiography and really practical, really helpful, really friendly guidance on directing, on the actual art of directing. And I brought it with me to Mobile, and I was almost late to panels because I couldn't stop reading this book, and looked it up. There is an Audible version. So I think if you're interested in directing, it's really, really great. But if you're just interested in a funny, friendly look at Hollywood and entertainment, this is a great book to read or listen to. So that's the recommendation. But what I really want to do is direct.
There you go. Listen to it today. Get your free audiobook by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. It really does help the show. All right, quick break. On the other side, we're going to talk about what works here on Well, I almost said Force. Well, it is ForceCenter. ForceCenter presents OtherCenter. You know, we'll be right back. Welcome back to OtherCenter here on ForceCenter. You all know what it is here. We are so happy to have you on this journey. We are talking about motivation, work ethics, obstacles that I keep put in front of myself like a bucket of candy. Joseph, where do we go from here?
Are candy an obstacle, or can they be a reward? Let's find out. We're going to talk about what does work for us. So, Jennifer, what works better for you for a specific goal or task? Is doing a little bit of work every day work better for you, or does setting aside like a few big chunks of time for a creative binge, does that work better?
I find that I spend too much time on projects over a long period of time. And then I end up like finally feeling like I just got to get this out. And then I spend even longer on the last few days of the project. So I really tried to get better on that and go back to that good enough mentality. What I'm discovering with anything in life, whether it's you want to eat better, you want to exercise, you want to be creative, building it into your routine daily is key. And really setting yourself up for success and not allowing yourself to be distracted, because you're going to be tired. There's going to be days where you don't want to do it. How can you figure out a way to create the space where you're going to get it done, right? Like, I mean, people always talk about like meal prep, right? Because if you have a tendency like myself to eat badly, how can you prepare yourself for reaching for something healthy as opposed for, some junk food? And so I think it's the same thing for creative people, being like, okay, I'm going to write for an hour, or I'm going to do something for an hour every single day at this time, and really treat it like a job, I guess, would be probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, no, I really agree. And I think it is very telling that if you crack open most novels that I encounter, most books written in modern times, the first people who will be thanked is the various life partners who helped the writer make room for the writing. And I know that's, I want to be very respectful to people who have, hard jobs and children and make time to be creative, because it is an extra just logistical challenge. Right, Jennifer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that will definitely change things, and you won't be able to be as precious as you were, and you will just find time. Like my work time, usually before my kids were in school, it was at 9:00 at night, and I would work from 9 until 1 every day. Or you can be a morning person and wake up before they wake up, right? And get some work done. It forces you to be much more mindful about how you spend your time.
Yeah. And I love everything you're saying about routine. And I do think that works better. And that's what I want to do creatively, but it is just not realistic to my life. So every once in a while, I'll get into a groove where I can be like, yeah, I'm going to work on this a little bit every day. It's so glorious when you can make it happen. But that 1 month that I did NaNoWriMo, is like, I got to get those, whatever, I can't remember the number of words every day. Or more, it was a real act of, let's see what I sacrifice. Let's see what else I don't pay as much attention to. And it was really, really hard. And I think because throughout my creative career, I've often did what I did for, the homecoming. Another brick in the wall part too is book it, then you're bleeped and you got to do it. Sadly, binge just fits into my life so much better. And to me, the positive side of that in a creative way is I find the most joy and the best choices when I can disappear into a work. If you're writing something narrative, like for myself, a play or a film, and you're just getting to that place where you're like, you live inside that world. And you set aside most of a day. So when you're stopping to make lunch or going for a walk or taking a shower, the characters are like whispering to you because you're so in that world, you're inside it. And that to me is the value of doing the binge model. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when it works really well and you've got like from 6:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. every day, I write, I think it helps to create the same thing. But for me, the binge model has always worked better. Good, better. Otherwise, it's just true. It does.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Ken?
I think I might tend to go towards the binge thing for creative projects, at least the actual doing of it. So, when I get assigned a project, and we're talking about the accountability thing and assignments versus can you do it on your own is a struggle for me. But our pal Billy Patterson, who's a ForceCenter, OtherCenter listener as well, when he was working for Fandom, or when I was working for Fandom, he would call me up. Hey, we need a 12-minute video on X, Y, and Z. 2 weeks good enough for you? I wouldn't start working on it for 5 or 6 days.
Exactly.
And it's a little bit out of, that's my deadline. Cool, I'll get it there. But knowing what works for me, and it's knowing that the first time I'm going to sit down, it's going to be a little bit of just a note taking. Then the next day's an outline. Then I'm going to fill in the outline a little bit. And I know that he wants it on a Friday. Thursday, I'll sit down and write it because I know I can. And I don't mean that in some of the negative way we've talked about before, but just that's what's going to work for me. That's where my mind is going to focus on it. And knowing that is how I work, like you just said, for better or worse, right? This binge thing. When I was putting together my parody radio show for the last couple of years, Saturday Night Napzok, it was out on Saturday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific was the general time I tried to aim for. There would be weeks where I was like, well, let me try to write it on Tuesday and I can give myself more time. It wouldn't work. I needed to do it every Saturday about 1 p.m. where I would literally be uploading it at 5:59. And I would tell myself, maybe next week we don't do that. Maybe we start outlining on Monday. And I couldn't. And so maybe that's a problem. But also to your point, Joseph, like my mind, I just knew if I did not have that 6 p.m. deadline, my focus wasn't there. And that's what worked for that particular show. But other things don't work that way. And I think what works for me is knowing what project deserves 3 weeks and which one deserves a day. And then much like working out or trying to get, not eating a bucket of candy when I can physically do it. This week cannot physically get into the gym, but it's like just knowing that quit complaining. It's going to be an hour of your life.
Right.
And sometimes that is with the creative stuff too. Or even when I go to work, talk about uncreative stuff. When I go to the old job, I used to have big giant reports to do, big time studies and stats. At the end of every month, we had to take all the LAPD crime stats. We had to cross-reference them with our reported stats and then report what was missing. And sometimes stats wouldn't come to you. They'd go to the police and vice versa. I hated that, but I knew that if I just sat down and did it for 2 hours, it was done. It was done. And so I just allowed myself to have that 2 hours. That's what we're going to do. And that's sometimes what it is with the creative stuff. Or even admin, all three of us probably go on the infrastructure weeks, but like that's become my Sunday is I sit down. I've been watching a little bit more football these days. I put football in the background and that's I got to fix this social page. I got to get this tweet locked. I got to schedule an email to flappers. I got to do all that stuff. And that helps clear a lot of the creative for the rest of the week.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I probably wrestle with the most is the little micro tasks that pile up like that. And in micro tasks, they're like being shown I was going to make a horrible comparison, but I'm not going to. They ruin the mood. Fill in your own horrible metaphor that you think I might have been about to say. Yeah. But nothing kills the mood for me more than a list of micro tasks. To me, it's like so the opposite of creativity. It's just this maintenance that must be done. Yes. And you're just marching through it. I was going to ask you, Ken, about the specific example of the radio show. Do you think that there is value in going, well, whether or not it's the right way or whatever, this is the way that's working for me, so I should just forgive myself and let it work?
That's exactly where I landed on it. And I ended up stopped doing the show because it did take, I didn't have a Saturday. I'm not one of those, let's go to the lake on a Saturday kind of guys, but I couldn't go fix the fence that was falling in the yard because my Saturdays were gone, but at the end of the day, it was also kind of a topical show. So that's fair. But yes, I did end up landing on that, where it was like, you know what? Don't worry about doing it on Tuesday, because it's not going to get done and it's not going to be good. It's going to be good this way because this is how it works. It's same with like when I approach, I don't do screenwriting anymore. I was going to say as much, but I really don't. I do own the current final draft. But I used to always think, I've unlocked it being the formula, right? All I have to do is note cards. No, all I have to do is this beat sheet. All I have to do is read Save the Cat 7 times. And it would change with every project. Now again, work ethic, structure, this is all those things that are good and knowing what works. But sometimes, depending on where you are or what, I like what you're saying. Forgive yourself. This is how this project's getting done. Just get it done.
Yeah. The recent binge I did of setting a goal to finish the first draft of a screenplay while my wife was out of town was really fun, because it I mean, some of it was painful, like literally physically painful typing for 12 hours straight, which is what I did on the final day. But it was fun in that I just forgave myself and said, like, it doesn't matter if this is the best process or not. It's the one that works for you. And you know how this is going to go. You have 5 days, and the first several days, you're going to be really slow. And then the last day, you're probably going to write like half a script in the last day, because that's who you are, good or bad. It was nice to just try to accept that. Let's talk about accountability. Jennifer, for you, does being accountable to other people help you stay on task, even if the task you're doing is your own creative goal? You're doing it for you, but does it still help to be accountable to someone outside yourself?
It's hard. I've found sometimes I will get resentful because people are holding me accountable. It's just like
these
they're
jerks
just
in my writing group. Yeah.
Right. They're just checking in. Just, it's not their fault. Like, but yeah, that was really challenging. This was years ago. Now, I mean, yeah, now it will be like my own accountability. I'm just better if I do it on my own, or quite frankly, if my husband will be like, hey, did you post that video? And it's like, or like people will ask, oh, are you going to post this? It's like, oh yeah. Okay. But yeah, I have a really difficult time with that. Like I said, I've learned that I'm probably better suited to do art as a hobby. just when I want to do it. When the inspiration strikes, it is really hard to keep yourself on task. And some people are great, and some people like to be held accountable like that. Like I said, I get a little angry, so it just works against me.
That's a really good distinction that I hadn't thought about, because when I think about accountability, I think about things like my example of, book a show or be in a writing group so you're excited to share, things like that. I hadn't really thought about it the way that you're talking about it, Jennifer, which is really important. That idea of like almost assigning yourself a hall monitor. Yeah, that would infuriate me. As we've all talked about, we all have had some experiences with some controlling figures in our lives. And I think that would, if I just ask somebody else, like, check in on me every day, are you doing that? I would get unreasonably furious with that person who is trying to help me.
Yeah, these are like friends, and I would get really like, and it's a horrible feeling, right? It's like, this is my friend want the best for me because I told them to hold me accountable, and I'm just like, oh gosh, yeah. So annoying. So yeah, it's like being like a werewolf and being asked to be chained up, and then you turn into the wolf and you're like, brah, how dare you?
Yeah,
that's exactly it. Yes.
How about you, Ken? Does accountability, external accountability to others, help you stay on your own creative path?
It does, and I'm with you, Jed. I resent it. I resent it to the end of my days. I was even talking with Grace, talking with some other folks. Like, again, I was a nice little quiet boy, and was good in school, and all my teachers liked me, and I was, good at washing dishes. Was good at working in a movie theater. I was good at running security teams, and I thought I was the good coworker. I've discovered I'm not. I discovered that I just can't. I resent it. And that's not a good. By the way, it's not a good trait. And as I went to other, jobs in this industry, the full-time jobs I had, I just was like, I was really upset that you couldn't just be creative. Like I got that there was office hours, but I'm not going to show up at 2 p.m. for an 8-hour day. But when the moment they told me you have to be here at 8:59 every day for a 9 o'clock meeting, I was like, then this isn't creative, and I don't want to be here, and I don't want to work with you. And there's nothing that, don't tell me what to do. And so sometimes that spills out into the accountability where I do think having those goals. This is why, Joseph, I've talked to you off air about like my frustrations with why, when my good buddy Billy Patterson calls me and says, I got a 12-minute video I can pay you for fandom. Why do I knock that out like a champ? Sometimes working 6 to 8 hours a day on it, when I finally sit down to write it. But I can't do that for a ForceCenter essay. Like, why? Or I can't do that for a Ken Napzok YouTube channel. Why can't I do that? And so I think I'm with you, Jen, and I have to kind of push past that. This is why classes or courses, I also have had an issue where I was kind of a good student turned bad because I just got tired of a teacher telling me, here's how to learn. Let me go just figure it out on my own. But I think if I'm almost, this seems weird. I'm almost considering going to get some stand-up lessons. There's some tinkers I want to make to my act and set that I just feel like I don't know if I can do it on my own because I'm going to keep getting away with what I've been doing. But if someone else was to sit down with me and say, do this, that might help me. I'm considering it. Right. And that's a good accountability. And that kind of flows into the freelance work thing here that I keep talking about. The moment some guy I don't even really know from some company I just kind of work for says, great, we need 7,000 words on this, I get it done. Versus telling myself, I just need, 500 for ForceCenter, and I can't do it. That's a problem. So that's where I'm trying to find the accountability. It does help. I just got to get over myself and accept it.
I think maybe this isn't it for you, but for me, when I'm in the kind of situations that you're describing, Ken, that is the difference between that external work ethic of. That was drilled into me and I know how to do it. And those little fear demons aren't there as much because it's just like, it's a job and I know how to do that. And I'll write that essay. Great. Right. I can write for other people much, much faster than I can write for myself because it's just, it is creative and I'm using all of the skills and the knowledge that I've built up, but it feels like working at Kinko's up to a certain point because like I'm being paid and this needs to be done and I'll do that. And then when you're doing it for yourself or for something you're passionate about, those fears of what if it isn't quite the way I want it to be, your boss is your soul, and you can let yourself down more than, some corporation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that
you mentioned Kinko's. Like when I was an assistant director, I was top of the game, that's why I got promoted to a director of security. Then once I got to the top and the only person above me was either the client on property who loved me and my vice president who showed up once every 4 months and emailed too much and text too much, but he wasn't there. Once once that pressure of someone else in the office with me went away, I kind of got complacent and lazy at times.
Yeah. So, I think that's where accountability helps if you can find the right accountability for yourself. And for me, that accountability is everything. Like I said, a lot of times it's been literally booking a show. When I was doing theater, I would absolutely book a show when I had the idea for the show and nothing else. I had times where I had the idea for the show, I had the photo, I had the description, and it was down to the point where people were excited and I was getting reports of how many tickets were being sold to a show that did not exist yet, except as a concept. And then you're really in that place like, well, I got to deliver exactly that. There is massive external pressure. But I think other good accountability is, a writing group. So it isn't just like one life partner or, someone you've set up to nag you and get on your nerves. I think taking a class, so it is structured. For me, a huge accountability thing that has worked, and I don't know if it works for everybody, but posting the intent on social media is a great way for me to externalize something. Like this recent time when I wanted to write that first draft. I had told a couple of people that I was going to try to do it, and some people were positive, and some people were like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen." Which, is a motivation all its own. Posting it on social media, I get often positive responses, which is really nice. Of yeah, you can do it, or have fun, or whatever. Every once in a while, I'll get the negative, "You can't do that," or "It won't be good," which I don't think is the best motivation to be negative, but it is certainly motivating. But for more than anything, it's me. I've planted my flag, and no one on social media is going to notice if I post something like on Monday, I'm going to have the script done by Friday. Everybody's got a busy life. Nobody's going to scroll back and go, "Gotcha."
Yeah.
But it's planting a flag for myself of I'm doing this, and I just said it with my whole chest in public. And it is, I'm careful about when I do that, because for me it's a switch, an internal switch that goes off of I am doing this. I've made the stake that it means something to me, and I'll feel horrible if I don't, and I'll feel great if I do make it. I don't know if that works for everybody. It might be the wrong kind of pressure. Social media is problematic at best, but posting on social media is a huge, great accountability thing for me.
I have a thing too, and I've joked about it before, but it's real. Where I think I need to do it tomorrow. I need to complete a set of song lyrics, and if I sit in my house, I'm not going to do it. But I'm going to go to the zoo, and no one knows what the hell I'm doing. They just see some old dude walking around the zoo with a notepad, taking notes of the meerkats, I guess. I don't know. But I feel as though because I'm there and people are watching that I get it done. It's so silly, but it's a tool I know. So sometimes it's like, I don't want to be the poet writing in the coffee shop type of trope, but sometimes if I go to a diner and I pull out a notepad, I feel this waiter's going to know I'm not writing if I don't put anything down. And it's silly, it's stupid, but it works.
No, the separating yourself from your normal environment works really well for me, and being like, I'm going to, I was lucky one time to be able to just go to a hotel and lock myself in, and I wrote half a movie. But for shorter ideas, I did a lot of work on The Nightmare Adorable by just picking a bar and going, I'm solving this one particular question of the short film at this bar today. So nice to be able, if you have that luxury, to separate yourself from, even if you have a beautiful, lovely office, it's just different to get away, and this is your only focus.
Yeah.
How about you, Jennifer? Does going a different place ever help you?
No. No. I mean, I've heard about this. There is certainly an energy that you feel when you go to a coffee shop. I think it's really writer specific, or like when you, any sort of writing, or something like that. I do think that there is something about going to a coffee shop that feels a little bit inspiring. You're enjoying maybe a latte or whatever it is, and you feel like, especially in Los Angeles, when you're around a bunch of writers with their laptops at a coffee shop, you just feel like, wow, I'm doing something. But when it comes to what I mainly do, which is I'm shooting something, whether it's outside or in my home, and then I have to edit. Then I hunker down. I want to be in my space, in my chair with my headphones on, and not be distracted, and not also feel self-conscious of people seeing me editing myself, which is always a really awkward thing. Right. And then people might ask, what are you doing? I'm doing a YouTube video. It just becomes a thing. Oh, are you an actor? I hate it. I don't want to have to explain,
I'm right with you. If I can bring a notebook to a cocktail bar and nobody knows, am I writing, a poem for my wife? Am I writing a grocery list? They don't know what I'm doing. I love that. If I brought a laptop and typed actual dialogue in a cocktail bar, I would die 1,000 deaths. Because for exactly the same reason, Jennifer, that sort of that personal, private boundary of I'm here to work on this, not talk about it.
Right.
Yeah. I like
Go ahead, Ken.
No, I agree with that. That's funny.
So let's talk about reward tricks of you have set aside, time, and you have a specific goal, whatever it is. I'm gonna get this chunk of a project done by this time. How do you reward yourself, Ken? Do you use candy, video games, social media posts? What do you use?
No, I don't. I reward myself by saying, well, that was horrible. Let's try something else. I'm bad at this. I could say the video games in the sense of, but I don't do it as if I write till 8, I get to text Ken Plume and Hal at Loveland and play Fortnite. I don't use it as reward. That's my,
that's your day to day.
It's my day to day. But it's not a reward so much as we're done with the day and I'm shutting down. So maybe if I start rewarding myself, there'd be a little more joy in all of this. But even in the, trying to look out just outside the walls of just creativity and those pursuits, even the old job of like, you know what, I work a job that I don't really love. I work hard at it. I'm on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long. I'm going to buy this thing that I like. I deserve it. I think if you can do that, you got to be careful how many times you're swiping the credit card. I could have that problem too, but I think there's some of that. Of overall work, but I don't do it on a daily level. Maybe I should.
Yeah, no, the daily level would get dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
In college for papers, candy was a problem.
Yeah,
because I would get down to like, I don't want to write this essay. If I finish this paragraph, I can have another Butterfinger. Not entirely healthy. Jennifer, what tricks or what rewards do you use for yourself for your own motivation?
I think actually being able to just be creative is the reward for me. I really enjoy researching my videos. I enjoy shooting them. Can be kind of laborious because you got to set everything up. I love editing. So I feel like that is a reward. If I'm tired and, it's 9:30 at night, I might have a snack. There was a period where I would have those little swimmers like we've talked about from Trader Joe's.
Mm-hmm.
That was bad. I had to quit that. So now I have their trail mix, which has a little bit of chocolate pieces in there. And so I just sit down usually during the day and I'll have that as like a snack. But yeah, doing it is just, I like it. I hate the actual posting part of it. I hate figuring out the caption, dealing with the subtitles and the technology, and then you put it out there and no one cares and no one watches it. But the actual process, I love. So I want the reward of like having people actually watch it. That would be nice.
Yes, that is definitely a huge issue. We'll discuss that in a moment in full depth, because I think that is one of the greatest challenges that one needs to be honest about with creative stuff. For rewards, for me, I have an action figure issue that needs to be dealt with. The piles are getting massive, but either buying a figure that I have my eye on when I complete a big task, or because I pre-order stuff. Like while I was gone, 3 boxes showed up, and my wife was like, "Do you know what action figures these are?" And like, I don't, because the pre-orders are so long. So that can be a fun thing too. Of when I complete this creative task, I'll open up this surprise action figure and find out what it is. Also, if I've already posted on social media that I'm going to try to do this, posting that I did it is a great reward, because it helps me, Jennifer, with what you're talking about of celebrating the act of creation and not immediately going from the elation of creativity to the frustration of the potential reception. And how do you make room to just celebrate that you did this creative thing that you enjoy doing? It is an accomplishment unto itself. Kind of getting into a little end button of like, hey, I did it, helps me really celebrate the thing itself.
I think you're really good at that, and I know you do that stuff, and I think it works, because, like I said, when I'm sliding into my chair to play video games, at the end of the day, it's more of like, F it, I am done. I'm not doing that again. So upset. Versus, well, what a nice day of work. I'm going to play some video games with pals.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does work. And I don't know if with either of you, if, I think a lot of us do self-talk, both, encouragement or sometimes negative stuff. But for me, I can really feel like when the switch happens and I mean it, and I'm gonna have the willpower to do something or not do something. And for this, the recent binge right into that first draft, there was an action figure I really wanted, but I've been I got to work on it. I can't have every shiny thing, but I really wanted that one. And I was like, oh, okay, self, you are truly not going to buy that unless you finish that script. It was the dumbest thing in the world. Like, this $20 action figure helped me complete this. But again, it's that making that deal with yourself and not needing anybody else outside of yourself, because you've planted your flag.
Plant your flag.
Let's talk about the topic that Jennifer very wisely brought up, which is trying to enjoy the satisfaction of setting a creative goal in meeting it and not immediately getting distracted by the next steps. We are not a Star Wars podcast right now, but I'm just going to share this one image in Revenge of the Sith. When Anakin and Obi-Wan are partying, and Obi-Wan is, really kind to Anakin, and Anakin smiles for a minute, and then the smile drops and the darkness sets back in. That's what I often think about it. Like, I did it. I finished a first draft. No one will ever buy this or watch this. And the darkness sets in. Jennifer, how do you work for yourself on just celebrating the process and the completion?
I think that I just discovered that this past weekend. I don't know if I shared this, was it just off air, or did I actually mention this at the beginning of the podcast? I can't remember. That's my tired brain. But making my Furby costume, I just love the process of it. It was so fun to just craft like I have been doing my whole life. I've always been a crafter, a maker. And this was, when I was 10, 11, 12, there was no YouTube. There was no posting on social media, nothing. I just did it because. And I realized that I'm at this point right now where being an artist, it is kind of a selfish pursuit. Because like you're talking about, like with the writers, right? Like you have to lock yourself up in that room and your partner is going to have to just deal with it. But you kind of have to preserve that space for yourself to be able to create. And I'm at a point now where I don't really have that luxury anymore. And so there was something nice about just doing it just for fun, for me. And then I was like, oh, shoot. Well, I made this. I kind of mentioned this before. I should probably make a video about it. And that actually was not as fun as actually just making the Furby. And because I was like, I am just so satisfied with this physical thing that I have that I get to wear with people, and it's just for celebration and fun. Then it becomes like, I'm going to spend all this time on this video and nobody may watch it. And that can be disappointing, right? And that's kind of what happened. And it kind of deflated my little happy balloon of, I just made a Furby costume and it was so fun to wear it on Halloween. People were like, Furby! And it was awesome. And then to post the video and it's like, all right. So that was a real lesson for me, is that it's okay to just create and to just have it be for fun. And don't feel the pressure of posting it on social media. I mean, everyone's like, that's just kind of like the way that our society is right now. Post. You don't have to. You know, that was a wonderful lesson for me.
We are getting to that point of like, if a tree falls in the wood but didn't post a selfie while they were falling over, did the tree fall at all kind of philosophy. Right. Exactly. And there can be a positive side of it of, I think for me, when I post that I completed something, it is really nice to get that validation. And there are more people rooting for you than you realize often when you are feeling negative. But there is also, I think, that dark side of it of, do we need to turn everything that we do for ourselves, for joy, into something that can be defined by numbers?
And
likes.
then one last thing I want to say is that that's exactly it. And that when I posted a photo of it, it felt like I was literally just sharing with friends online, because I had mentioned this costume here on OtherCenter, some of my real life friends, people I know that I told. So that felt like an organic thing, kind of like old school Facebook, right? I'm going to share my family photos, right? It's like that next step though of like being a quote unquote content creator, where that's where it becomes something else. And that's where, like what we're talking about, the motivation to continue doing that, to not care about the numbers. It is just your routine. It is just what you do, and separating yourself from the end result, right, of those views. That's key if you want to pursue that job.
Yeah. I think this is all really important stuff. It was really helpful to me, a writing group that I'm involved in Los Angeles. A lot of one of the things that, a lot of writing groups is just is saying the wisdom to one another again and again. And one of the wisdoms is that, like, being extremely even though everybody in that group is actively trying to sell things and have a successful career, to still just absolutely hold close to your heart of what you can control and what you can't. And the part of that is being able to celebrate, like, I set a goal, I set a task, I finished this script, I'm proud of this script. That needs to be celebrated all by itself, because the rest of it, because that's the part that you can control, and you can't control the rest of it, and really, really isolating those things, which just sounds like, the experience you really had, Jennifer, of everything that was organic and human. Your joy, you're sharing it with your friends through photo, was great. And then when you took that step to, can I get, monetary or career value out of it, is where it became darkened.
Yeah. And like I had made that decision. I am going to be a video creator, right? I want to post. That was a goal of mine. Post every week. This was just another video. But when it started becoming laborious, I picked up on that, and I was like, maybe it's time for something new. So
yeah. I think for me, I go up and down about being able to enjoy, to take the wisdom of be proud of, just enjoy the creative, be proud of you set a task and you met it, and let those things be beautiful. And then now it's a whole separate thing of, can I get it out into the world? Can I get a positive reception of trying to delock those things a little bit, of the act of creation should have value. The act of setting a goal and meeting it should have value. And now turn the page, you're on chapter 2 of this adventure, and it's a different thing. I'm working on myself on that, which is part of the reason that I post about it on social media and talk about it a lot on OtherCenter. Is I'm trying to be proud of myself for just creating things. And Jennifer, I think everything you're saying about the why of doing things and doing things for career versus for personal joy, I think for me, I would love to try to make the time of, like, I bought a canvas and I want to make a painting to go over my desk, and there's no chapter 2 of that. There's no like, and this painting will be discovered after my death and I will become, a famous painter. There's none of that. It's just, I want a painting over my desk and I can make it. And I need to try to make time for those things, so I can have things that are this is just creative joy. Ken, how do you feel about all of this divide between the creative satisfaction, pride in meeting your goal versus the next steps?
Yeah, this is a big one, because it is all about the motivation and what fuels it. And sometimes that motivation gets stamped out real quick, like a campfire at the end of the weekend, because you look at some of the stuff that you're talking about, both of you talking about. And Jen, I feel where you're at. And because back in the day, Jen, you might have liked crafting, and then you thought, well, I'm going to get a job at Michael's, and then I'll be a manager of Michael's, and I'll craft. Maybe I'll go to a garage sale, sell some stuff at a swap meet on the weekend, and what a life, And then we have this absolute Shangri-La possible for all of us, where your hobbies, your interests can become your career. And it's a wonderful draw. It kills me all the time, because it's like, I think ForceCenter has been a great example of how that's worked for me and us as well. But then you just, when it's not paying all the bills or the realities of who's paying attention. And it's changed since we started doing this in 2015 to now. We're in a dangerous point. It's another conversation. We've touched upon it here. We're at a dangerous point with the algorithm game. It's no longer just fun. A conversation with my a friend, Dorina, a friend of ForceCenter, on Friday night, who used to work at Google and YouTube. And she goes, I watched them change Google into a shopping mall where you used to type, something you want to search and you get a wonderful search, a search result so you could research something. Now it's a mall. And now the algorithm game, it's hard. I'm working hard not to be bitter. This question is a little bit about how do you motivate versus how does the bitterness drag you down? Because you watch others succeed, and that's the thing I was saying up top of, like, you watch a video, you watch these like real Instagram reel sketches of people doing little things, and you're like, no, this isn't funny, this isn't poignant, this isn't insightful. It's got 10 million views, and I'm going to jump off a cliff, and that can bury you. Versus what your heart of your question, Joseph. And I'm trying to find the satisfaction and balance it with the pursuit of this still. And it's harder. And this is the last big negative point. And again, shout out our buddy Ken Plume. Check out his show, Open Chats at Force 5. He said this out of frustration to me the other night, and it resonated with me. He's like, forget trying to get a new audience. I'm trying to find the people that already support me, and I can't. Because the algorithm game has ruined that.
Yeah.
And so that's why the satisfaction stamp. And this year I've done some things and in the process of doing some things that I didn't think I'd do for a lot of various reasons discussed here about self-confidence and belief, but they're out there. Releasing a comedy album, and I'll tell you, I don't even know if it's probably not my best work. I think my best work's yet to come, but I've told myself that I can't do that for years. And so I did it. The music that we've just released with this musical project, The Moon Ages, with my friend Brian and Sean, I'm not going to win a Grammy. I don't have any music with that, but I did it, and it's there. And our first song's on Apple and Spotify. You can bring it up and you can listen to it. And I'm trying to stop there, meaning that exists. The fact that 13 people on Apple Music have listened to it and I can't get anyone to listen to it is another frustration for another day. Or maybe I can just be happy with this. I did it, and I never thought I would, because it's easy to push it off. At the beginning of the year, one of my goals was to write a book of poetry. In late 2022, I saw my friend Czar, who's a great poet, at a poetry show, and I thought, this is wonderful. Not I think I can do it in an arrogant way of like, this might be something I want to pursue. For nothing, because I don't know a lot of rich poets in the world right now. And like you said earlier, Joseph, I'll do it mid-year has become, I guess, 2024.
Mid-decade. I'll do it mid-decade.
But I'm trying to, those are things that I'm going to do out of satisfaction. The realities of, hey, I didn't sell as many of the comedy albums as I wanted to on Bandcamp is another fight and another struggle. But I need to stop at the joy. I need to stop at the satisfaction. Just like finding the purpose of my old job. As I've said here many times, hated my old job. But also, man, I met a lot of people. And I also had a chance to mentor a lot of people. I still have ex-employees who reach out to me who say that, that advice you gave me in 2007 still works with me. Or that conversation you and I had. That's the satisfaction I needed to take out of a job that nearly killed me, and I'm trying to do that now with my creative pursuits.
Yeah, no, it's all sort of easier said than done stuff. So I think, trying to lift one another up, acknowledge that it's a challenge, and congratulate one another when we succeed on separating, the show and the business, particularly for people who are trying to do creative things as a career. I think it can happen in hobbies too, where you make a beautiful thing, you put it on Facebook, and like I worked on this sweater for 8 months, and 2 people liked it. So I think it's a challenge that lots of us face, but trying to find as much as possible the ways to separate it and be not just be proud of yourself for having done it, but also I think in the darkest version, making it all about numbers. I got a very nice message from somebody who backed the Kickstarter for the Nightmare Adorable short, who had not, the email the rewards had a spam problem. So it was asking me like, hey, did that show up? Can you send me the film? And I did. And then just had a real nice thing about like, your jokes on social media for years are brighten my day. And like that is a reward by itself. It's not always about numbers. I think it's hard, but I try to think about the things that have made it out into the world that mean something to me. And how many of us have a favorite film that bombed? And that creator probably felt like, I killed it. I made this amazing movie and it bombed and it destroyed my career for the next 10 years. But eventually became a cult hit. And for other people out there, like, they could not give a damn. They might not even know that your movie bombed and destroyed your career for 10 years. But it means the world to them. And like, I think trying to give ourselves that same kind of grace or perspective that we might give to another artist, like maybe this didn't reach the number of people we wanted it to, but what did it mean to the people who did? Is I think a good thing to try to put the focus on.
Yeah.
Right, because it is about connection, and I think that knowing that your art connected, touched someone, is so much more meaningful than however many views you get. And so yeah, like one positive comment, it means a lot, because it means the person took the time to comment, right? Like, things are moving so fast, but to be like, oh my gosh, that was hilarious, or that really moved me, or whatever it is, it's like, yay. We're just becoming so removed from each other that it's just like those little moments I hold on to, knowing that it connected with someone.
I think that's a great segue into the final question I wanted to ask, which is the benefits of creating for creating's sake. And to me, that could mean that you're creating is a hobby or for pure joy, or if you are career based, that you're able to separate out the business versus the I created this and I find joy in it. And Jennifer, you're touching on for me what is one of the biggest answers is I think with the way technology is going, particularly with the algorithms, with some of the various sort of traditions that were shattered by the pandemic and haven't fully returned, that we are in like a battle for humanity. And exactly as you said, Jennifer, I think that's one of the greatest ways to value creating for creating's sake, is that sharing something we created, a drawing, a podcast, a doily, a mixtape, it's just like this great vote for humanity and for staying connected and sincere and honest. You made that Furby out of honesty. That it's beautiful and uniquely you. To get excited about that and to have for you to put that out there and for somebody else to see it is connection and a win for humanity.
Well, so maybe like, what the heck?
Well, yeah. So maybe not a win for every human, but
win for the weirdos.
A win for the weirdos. So Ken, for you, what are the benefits of creating for creating's sake?
This is what I want to do. I know no other way, right? I'm trying to find other ways. Like I no joke. I'm trying to apply for a janitor's job at the zoo because I'm like, maybe I'll just walk around picking up trash from the animals. Maybe I'll find some joy there. That's a 100% true statement. But on the flip side of it is this: I know no other way. So 12,000 likes or 12 likes. Knowing that I did it and knowing that kid who did a parody commercial in his 6th grade class and thought, well, that's how I communicate with the world. And that's what I'd like to do. That's the big benefit. It's that I am continuing to find a way to do that. Whether or not it's full-time career or not, I don't know. We'll see. A lot of things in flux, and your battle for humanity is it's a real thing that's, I think, taken an even harder turn in the last 6 months to a year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're sharing Ken Plume's comment is it's extra hard to not know when you share something, if it's a creative project or a picture of your Halloween costume, whatever it is, To not know, did the people who love me not like that, or did they not see it?
They did not see it. Yeah.
Awful place to have to wonder.
Yeah.
It's a dark time. I think for me, my final thought on it is, I do think just making a mark makes you feel alive. There's lots of things in society too that tells you can't, there's a lot of things where you feel like I pressed the button and I don't know if anything happened. Taking a blank piece of paper and making a mark on it at its best just makes you feel alive. Even in my sort of darkest and most upset periods, when I can get into a creative project, I just feel good and I feel alive because I'm creating something. I think that the benefit of creating for creating's sake is it just reminds you that you are alive and you have agency.
Yeah. Love that. I am alive.
Any other final thoughts besides being alive, Jennifer?
I think the freedom of creating for creating's sake is that you find yourself willing to take more risks, willing to make mistakes. You don't have that pressure.
Yeah.
If you want to have like a side business and open up an Etsy store, just start making stuff. Is what I've been telling my sister, she has a job, but she wants to be a fashion designer. And, that's really hard. But I'm like, guess what? You have a regular job and now you have the freedom to do whatever you want. And if it doesn't work out, it's okay. It's not your livelihood. You know what I mean? Like you can just create, and there is something so pure and fun about that. And you may discover, you know what? I don't want to do an Etsy business after I've made 30 hats, right? Or you may be like, oh, actually, I do love this. This is my passion. But yeah, you won't know until you just create just for creating's sake and really taking that leap.
Love it.
Yeah. Well said. Any final thoughts from you, Ken?
I'm laughing. I know OtherCenter has been pretty deep since we've gone on, and I think some of our listeners have shared some of their own stories in our Discord and pulled out a lot out of it. And the candy conversations and the favorite drinks are a little bit more fun and a little more zippier. I feel the greatest thing about OtherCenter is it's made me be even more honest, where this has been a tough year for me and a lot of folks in the world. And there's more problems going on even in this moment in other countries that we're all aware of in the news. That helps with perspective, but it doesn't change the pain that you feel on a daily basis. This has been a tough year for me. And a lot of it has to be with trying to find this stuff and having these conversations and being reminded of the simple things, or just knowing that you two are in the same spot, or listeners in the same spot, whether they manage a Kinko's or an Etsy shop. It doesn't matter. We're all trying to find our way here. And it's a weird time and it's been good. So I want to thank you all for letting me work through it all. You, Joseph and Jennifer, and our listeners. And we're all going to find that motivation together.
That is right. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support OtherCenter. It has been a challenging year, including having this disruption that so many of us are feeling in terms of our relationship to pop culture and to corporations wanting the rights to dead people's faces with no checking of anybody else. It's a hard time on multiple levels, but thank you all for continuing to be here with us. And if you're doing any sort of creative project, we hope that you find some inspiration in hearing us talk through our gifts and our curses, our challenges and our victories. Ken, you want to let people know where they can find us?
I absolutely do. And shout out to the ForceCenter End crew. Several of you tweeted us and you listened to the end. We really appreciate it. We really do. And by the way, when we say we put something out there and no one finds it, Joseph, I think you're more right than them not liking what we do, or people just aren't seeing it. And so this stuff is valuable. We're on Twitter at ForceCenter Pod. We're on Hive Social if you're there. We're on Threads as well. We're on Instagram and YouTube. Subscribe over there. We got some cool things coming there. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. Podcast is available in a lot of different spots. If you still listen to podcasts, just search. You'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. You can support us directly, which I can tell you really helps, especially right now, at patreon.com/ForceCenter. But we know it's tough for everyone out there. So we just appreciate you all hanging out and being with us here. You can find me at Ken Napzok. Go to kennapzok.com for information, all things I do. I'm launching a political show because I've been passionate about that. I got some songs out there. There's more coming, and stand-up. It's all there on that website. Remember websites? It's there. Go there. Jen, where can they find you and watch all the things that you're doing?
You can find me on TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138, YouTube, Instagram at Jennifer Landa, where I'm starting a new chapter, and I'm only going to be posting just for fun. So be sure to check that out.
Love it. Joseph, you just had a lot of fun in Mobile celebrating one of the projects you got out in the world. Where else can they find your work?
Yeah, this is a nice, positive one to talk about. I'm very excited for this. I've been applying to lots and lots of different film festivals. I think I'm up to almost 75 film festivals I applied to for Nightmare Adorable. And one of the things I do is apply to cities I want to go to. And I'm thrilled to say that Nightmare Adorable will be playing in Las Vegas. So enjoyed my recent trip there and our discussion about it here on OtherCenter. So the festival is called Sin City Horror Fest. It is happening Saturday, December 2nd, Friday, December 1st through Sunday, December 3rd is the whole festival. But the Nightmare Adorable is playing on Saturday, December 2nd at 4 p.m. I'll be there to do a Q&A. One of the great things about this particular festival that not all festivals do is you can just buy a $5 ticket to just one specific film block. So if you're interested and want to make a weekend of it and you love horror, you can go to the whole thing. But if you just want to catch the Nightmare Adorable, there is a $5 ticket to the film block that it is playing in. All of this information is on my website at josephscrimshaw.com. Just scroll down and you'll find it.
There you go, friends. Head on out there. Viva Las Vegas. That's it. Find your motivation. Keep it as best you can. We'll see you next time here on OtherCenter.